What is up, everybody? Dadbod here, and welcome back to my quick guide for all achievements in Elden Ring. We have lots to handle in this video. Really, it's the remaining steps to get our character combat ready for the onslaught that lay ahead. In this video, actually, we're also going to get our first couple legendary items. For starters, you see where I'm looking straight ahead, that little raised piece of ruins there. I can't mark it on my map because I don't have the map fragment yet, but we're gonna head straight there. There's gonna be an NPC on top of these ruins here, and if you guys know me, generally I am friendly to NPCs. I don't like killing them, but in this case we are going to brutally murder this poor unsuspecting NPC because he's not required for platinum, but he does give us something useful if you kill him, and only if you kill him. In this case, he rolled straight off the edge and fell to his death. You can find him up here. He is not hard to kill. Again, R1 for your quick attacks. I killed him with straight R1s, R2 for a heavy. Really don't need to do much more, getting any fancier than that to kill him. As for me, he fell right off. Since he fell off, I'm actually going to need to quit and reload the game so that the item that he gives you for killing him will spawn in. And so if you kill him and he stays up on the raised platform, I believe he just drops it. But if he falls off the edge, you do have to quit and reload, I believe, to get it. So just keep that in mind. But either way, you will get it. And what it is that I'm after is a golden seed. And again, that is an NPC who, he does have a quest line, but he is not by any stretch required for platinum. So over here, you know, I just hopped on the other side of these ruins on this plateau here. There's going to be some runes for us and an item that we want to pick up. So make sure we get these runes. These are again going to be useful for leveling up in the early going. This on top of this one is really what we're after. This is the Fervor's Cookbook Tier 1. We do not have the crafting kit yet, but once we pick it up, this will actually give us the ability to craft sleep pots, which we're going to be using for a boss much later on in the playthrough. But other than that, yes, you do want to get those runes. So what we're after next is our map fragment. So we're going to pick that up right here. And even though we don't have this map unlocked yet, I'm just going to guess the next place we're going to want to go is right around here. There's kind of a ruins section, sort of like an abandoned building, I guess you could say, that has an NPC that we do want to interact with that we're not going to kill, but he's going to help us get something else that we're going to be using quite a bit in our playthrough, just at least using this route to get all of the achievements in the game. And by the way, this guide will work for every platform, regardless if you're playing for PlayStation, PC, Xbox. All of the achievements are all the same across all the platforms. So I happen to be playing this on PS5, but again, this will work for anybody. All right, there's our map. And so, well, we got the map unlocked, so I can actually adjust my waypoint here. This is where we're headed, right here. This is the Mistwood Ruins, and there's an NPC that we're not going to be able to talk to quite yet, but we do need to trigger an event that will allow us to at least get closer to talking to him. So when you approach this section, you'll hear a howl. You just heard it right there, so listen for that howl, and once you hear it, you've done all that you need to do for this point. So once you hear that howl, just get out of dodge because there's a bear there that might attack you. So after hearing the howl, make sure you travel kind of in a southeastward direction. And now that I have these on my map, I've access back to my map. I can mark off what we're going to do here. I'm actually going to go to point 2 first and then drop down to point 1. I did it kind of in a backwards order, but that's just fine. Either way will work. This is going to take us to Fort Height. That NPC that we just killed, this is his fort. And he does have a quest line if you want to go through with it, but it's not something that's required, as I said, so we're not going to waste our time with it. So the first marker that I wanted was to get this gold seed up here. And there's the marker that I put for that. And then we're going to drop down to a site of grace because we are going to warp back to here later. So we want this site of grace unlocked. Okay. Actually, I'm going to run into this beacon so it goes away. And get this site of grace. Alright, so what we're going to do now is warp back to the Church of Ella, the very beginning. Now that we got some more runes, there's some stuff we want to purchase from the merchant here. And there's also, we need to talk to him to progress this side quest that we just triggered by hearing that howl. So if you talk to him, you can say, about the howling in Mistwood. So until you hear that howl, this option's not going to be available. So let's pick that. And for doing that, he gives us the finger snap gesture, which is going to be very important in just a minute. But first, we're going to sell all of our runes. And we are going to purchase these 3 cracked pots. These will allow us to craft the sleep pots that I mentioned just a minute ago. And we're going to get the crafting kit. We need to purchase that to craft anything, which we're not going to be using just yet. And anything remaining, I'm going to use for leveling up. And we can upgrade our flask as well because we got some gold seeds. So, level up. I'm going to put this into strength, and that gets us to 17 strength. Just lovely. So now we are actually going to warp back to where we just were. And since we have the finger snap gesture, we can progress this quest now. Alrighty, so let's mark this off on our map right here. We're headed right back in this direction where we came from. Unfortunately, there's not a site of grace closer to the Mistwood ruins. So we do have to do a bit of horseback riding to get there, but that's just fine. So when you get back here, make sure you avoid that bear. I think the bear is closer to this side, so make sure you don't go right where the bear is. Yeah, there's the bear. Make sure you don't poke the bear. So there, see at the top of this tower, that's the guy who's howling, and that's who we want to get down. So what happens is if you switch your gesture here and equip the finger snap, and then here I'm going to press X to confirm I want to do the finger snap. Watch this. You do the finger snap, and then he hops right down. So now we are going to go over and talk to him. Exhaust his dialogue. Talks about his friend Darwill. Okay. So Darwill is actually a boss that we're about to fight. So this is going to be our first real... real foray into combat in this game, because we're about to fight a boss, kind of, but not really. So what I'm going to do is put a marker here for a site of grace, and then this is where he told us to go. The wolf man, he just told us to go. Blaidd is his name. He told us to go find Darwill. So the little marker I just put on my map is where you find him. Darwill is locked inside what's called an Everjail. There are several of them in this game. But this is one, we're not going to do very many of them in this playthrough. But the Everjails, basically you go in there, there's a boss locked inside, and you have to kill the boss. And in this case, the boss is going to give us the weapon that we're going to be using once we kill it. And thing is, since we talked to Blaidd, we're not going to have to fight the boss solo. We can actually summon Blaidd to help us in this fight. So we are going to take advantage of that. And I'm going to go ahead and pass the time until morning because I don't want it to go dark on me. And I'll pick up these mushrooms because they're right in front of me. I already have more than I need, but I see that I just feel compelled to pick stuff up when it's right in front of me. I don't know why. It's like a compulsion that I have. Anyway, so here's our next waypoint. Here's the Everjail. So to trigger the Everjail, all you got to do is go right here in the middle where it's glowing. Press the examine button, and you enter the Everjail. Now, before you fight the boss, what you're going to want to do is you're going to see this little summon sign here because we talked to Blaidd, right? This is where he told us to go. We can summon Blaidd as a cooperator. And really, keep in mind just your attacks, your R1 heavy, your R1 regular attack, your R2 heavy attack is really going to be all we're doing here. And then now that we have Blaidd with us, we can summon the boss by walking over to this blue. And Blaidd can more or less solo this boss. He's pretty tough to do by yourself, but with Blaidd, he's not that hard. Just make sure you keep your distance and roll away from him when he tries to attack you. And you see now his aggro's on Blaidd, and I'm going to go in and take some pot shots. And I got a critical hit on him because Blaidd actually stunned him for me. But see, I'm going to back away, and I'm going to let Blaidd do much of the dirty work just to show you that Blaidd is more than capable of taking on this boss. So this is still, even though he'd be tough to, this boss would be tough to face 1v1 with Blaidd on our side. It is very easy. I'm going to go help Blaidd just kind of finish him off. I did get hit there, but that's fine. There we go. And that's it. So we get the Bloodhound's Fang. That's what we were after, is the Bloodhound's Fang. And the Bloodhound's Fang is wonderful. It is a very solid weapon. It is one of the best weapons that you can get early on in the game. And really, this weapon, if you want to, can pretty much carry you through the whole game. So after you're done, make sure that you talk to Blaidd here. And he will give you a Somber Smithing Stone 2. So that's our 2. We have a 1 through 5, which technically means we could upgrade our weapon to +5, which is halfway to max, which is actually very, very strong for this point in the game. We won't be able to use all 5 of them yet, but if we warp here back to the Church of Ella, what you can do is there's this table here that we're going to be able to use to strengthen it to +3 if we have the runes. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and equip the Bloodhound's Fang. And you'll see we actually don't have the strength to use it. It requires 18 strength. I only have 17. But the thing is if you two-hand it, by pressing triangle or whatever the equivalent button is on your controller in R1, you can dual wield it, or not dual wield it, but two-hand it rather. And if you two-hand your weapon, as opposed to one-handing your weapon, if you two-hand it, it gives you a 1.5 times bonus to your strength. So now that we're two-handing it, we get that 1.5 times bonus. We actually have enough strength to wield it. So you see one-handed, we have that X on the icon on the bottom left of the screen that shows that we don't have the stats to use it. But if we two-hand it, that X goes away because that's saying with that 1.5 times bonus, we can now use it. So just a quick primer, your R1 attack, your L2 charged heavy attack, you can follow that with another R2 charged heavy attack and do that kind of double swing. Now the beauty of this weapon comes with the weapon art, or the weapon skill, that you can use by pressing the L2 button. And check this out. This is an extraordinarily powerful attack, and I'm going to be using it all the time in this playthrough. So take a second to get acquainted with the moveset on this weapon. Just get a feel for how it swings. And most importantly, that L2 attack here. Now, the L2 attack can be followed by an R2. So this is the L2 by itself, and here's an L2 followed by an R2. And you see, you do that extra dash swing attack. It does an enormous amount of damage to enemies. So take a few seconds to get acquainted with this move, especially doing your special. And if you run out of FP, because the special attacks do consume FP, just rest real quick and your FP will come back. And this is just an enormously powerful attack. Another attack that I use quite a bit is the jump attack. And to do the jump attack, simply just jump in the air by pressing the jump button and then press R2 while in the air, and you'll do a jump attack. I do that all the time. But yeah, the main thing is the special move on this weapon is just nuts. It just shreds enemies. It shreds bosses. It's amazing. So again, if you haven't used this weapon before, take a few seconds just to get acquainted with it. And what we're going to do now is actually going to warp back to the Roundtable hold where we're going to get invaded. Remember I told you not to warp back because you'd get invaded. We're going to do that now because now that we have our weapon. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to upgrade the weapon real quick as far as we can. So I'm going to strengthen armament. We can make it a +1. We have the runes to make it a +2. We don't have enough runes, unfortunately, to make it +3 yet because I spent all my runes on leveling up. And I don't think we have any more in our inventory. Yeah, I used them all, which is fine. We'll get more runes in just a little bit. So another downside is this weapon is a little bit heavier. So I am on heavy load, so I'm going to lighten my load so I can roll. So I took off my bow, and just taking off the bow got me to medium roll, so we're good. So make sure you're two-handing. We're going to go to Roundtable hold, and we're going to take care of this invader. If you can't beat this invader at this point, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just doing this to get it out of the way, because at Roundtable hold, when we have the runes, we'll be able to level this thing up to +5 because we have enough Somber Stones to level up to +5. So, here we go. And here, we're going to get invaded. And the reason why we're getting invaded is because we picked up that half Halig Tree medallion from the village of the Albinarics in the last episode. Once you pick that up, it's the trigger for this invasion. So I'm going to start with the jump attack. I'm going to follow up with a special here. And you see how much damage I'm doing with this special. Like, just completely shredding him. And then, let's see, he got a combo. I'm going to heal real quick. and I'm going to roll away just to stay out of his range and do another jump attack to finish things off. So he's not that hard, especially if you've got the feel for using this weapon. Especially since we've upgraded it to +2, he is not that difficult to beat. He unfortunately did not give us very many runes, so we're not going to be able to take this up to +5 yet, but that is just fine. We'll get it to +5 soon enough. So now what we're going to do is we are going to warp back here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go here. This is the Third Church of Marika, and that's our next destination. And we're going to get some important stuff at the Third Church of Marika. All right, so we put our beacon down. We're going to be headed straight there. So as I said, this is going to be our weapon for the bulk of the playthrough. One of the extra things I'm going to be getting that's not required for Platinum are these things called bell bearings. And what they do is what the bell bearings do is when you give them to the merchant in Roundtable Hold, it adds to her inventory. And so I will be picking up bell bearings that will allow us to buy infinite somber stones for each tier, pretty much. So if you want to use a different weapon than this in your playthrough, by all means, you'll be able to do that. Some weapons that you have access to early game, other than this one, that are upgraded by Somber Stones, would be the Sword of Night and Flame, which you're going to get in this area in Caria Manor. We're going to be getting that before too long, probably after we beat the first main set of bosses. We're going to go in here and get the Sword of Night and Flame. Another good one is the Moonveil Katana, which you can get in this cave right here. You do have to beat a fairly difficult boss to get the Moonveil Katana, but it is upgraded via Somber Stones. Those two weapons are going to require you, the Sword of Night and Flame and the Moonveil Katana are going to require you to have a bit more intelligence and faith to use, which I'm not really going to be leveling those up much in this playthrough. Another good one is the Blasphemous Blade, which is not something that we're going to be getting till much later in the game, but the Blasphemous Blade is incredible once we do have access to it. Again, I'm not going to be using it in this playthrough, but if you want to use a Blasphemous Blade and you want to respec your character to be able to do it, then by all means do it. So here, we got a Sacred Tear, and we got the Flask of Wondrous Physick. So this is a flask that you can use one time for every time that you rest. So it auto-equips it onto your toolbar, and this gives you a buff. And as I said, you can use it one time for every time that you rest. So it'll refill automatically, much like your other flasks do once you rest, but it gives you one usage per rest. So what you can do is you can actually input which buffs you want to use, and as you go throughout the game, you're going to be getting more and more of those different buffs that you can put in your flask that have different abilities. In this playthrough, we're not going to be getting very many of them, but we will be getting a few that we're going to want to use. It starts you off with this one here that basically acts as another healing flask. It restores half of your HP. We're going to go ahead and equip that. Before we go any further, what we're going to do is we're going to warp back to Liurnia. I mentioned in the previous episode there's one that gives you extra dexterity. And it gives it's like a 1 or 2 minute buff where it gives you additional dexterity. And since our weapon scales off of dexterity, that extra dexterity is going to help us to temporarily do a bit more damage with our weapon. So I warped to this site of grace that we picked up in the last episode, and I'm going to head straight over here to this marker to get the Physick Flask item that's going to help us get more dexterity when we use it. We'll be getting at least 1 or 2 other Physick Flask buffs in this playthrough, but we're going to be skipping probably the majority of them that I'm not planning on using. So there it is, the Dexterity Not Crystal Tier. That goes in our Physick Flask. As soon as it lets me warp, I'm going to warp. There we go. So we're going to go back to the Third Church of Marika here. And then we're going to put in the Dexterity Not tier into our kind of potion. And again, the potion refills every time that you rest, but it's one-time use per rest. So in here, we're going to put our Dex Not Crystal Tier, temporarily boost our dexterity. All right. And so the next thing that we're going to be doing here is right around here, there's a warp point that's going to take us back to Caelid, but it's going to be a different spot in Caelid than what we already did. We went to a different spot in Caelid earlier in the previous episode where we went through that treasure chest, the trapped treasure chest. And this is just a plain old warp point here. This is going to take us to a different spot. Actually, one of the most challenging areas of the game with some of the most powerful enemies. It's called the Dragon Barrows. Greyoll's Dragon Barrow. Right in here, there's a Site of Grace that we're going to unlock just for safety. We're not going to go any further in here. We're just going to get the Site of Grace and then bail. And again, we don't have our map unlocked, so I'm not really going to be able to use beacons very much. You're just going to have to follow where I'm going. Run past this guy. Do not fight him. He will one-shot you. And it's nothing good comes from fighting him at this point in the game. He's completely optional. And he will wreck you if you decide to mess with him. So on our path, we got a golden seed. Really, I'm just following this path right here. For starters, these guys, although small in stature they may be, they will destroy you very quickly. Do not go on this bridge right in front of us. A dragon spawns. You see him right in front of us. He will wreck you. As I said, this is one of the toughest areas of the game, but there's some important stuff that we're going to do, especially some stuff that's going to help our character get much stronger for not much risk. So once you get that Site of Grace, head back north and then travel east to get on top of this kind of little hill here. And then go all the way east to the other side. And again, I would be marking this off on the map, but we don't have the map for this section unlocked yet, so I can't really do that. So once you get over here, you're going to want to find a place to drop down. See this little tree root that's sticking out? Drop down on this tree root. And then we're going to head southbound here on this path. Ignore the little spiky things on the path. They will blow up and try to poison you. Like that. Now go across this bridge. Make sure you're not doing this at night, because if you cross this bridge at night, a special boss will spawn here that only spawns at nighttime, and he will hit you. He will kill you in one hit as well. But what we want here is a Site of Grace that's right in front of us. And get back on your horse. Right next to this tower is going to be a Spirit Spring jump that we're going to use to go to the top of these rocks. And this is our first Spirit Spring jump. So you see these little air vortexes that, you know, appear on the ground. You can use this to jump up really high. And these are just, you know, dedicated points in the game where that's designed. The thing is you can also jump on them, and then they will save you from any fall damage on the way down. So you can use them both ways. You can use them to get up or get down. They are work in either direction. So up here, we got another spot. We're going to pick up some runes. That's a rune 8. Quite good. And then from there, you see this giant tree. We're going to be headed towards that next. There's going to be another Spirit Spring jump that we're going to use to get up to that fort you can kind of see off in the distance. And there's a boss here. Just run past it. Oh, it didn't aggro to me. That's interesting. So this Spirit Spring jump behind the tree, we want to jump up it. And you see we're purposefully avoiding the enemies around here, because as I said, the enemies in this section are very strong, as we're about to very soon find out. And you want to make sure that you get this Site of Grace, because we're about to go in this fort. Inside of this fort is a legendary talisman that we need for an achievement. And this legendary talisman we're actually going to equip, because it's going to give us +5 levels in our vigor, +5 in endurance, +5 in strength, and +5 in dexterity. Now that comes at the drawback of we take slightly more damage from enemies, but the trade-off is definitely worth it. Now you're going to want to equip your lantern so you can see a little bit better, and you are just going to want to sprint. Do not stop. This is basically a suicide run because these enemies are powerful, but just run past all of these bats, sprint straight to the ladder, climb the ladder immediately, hold circle to get to the top, and don't stop for nothing. All right, so you want to open this treasure chest right here. Inside the treasure chest is the Dectus Medallion. And then we can jump down here. And again, don't stop for anything. There are enemies who will spawn here. You want to drop down this hole in the far back corner. Go over here. There's a rat that's going to jump out. Run past the rat. There's going to be an item here that we want to pick up. It's a golden rune 12. Now roll away from the rat. Don't let him hit you. If he hits you, it's going to be close to a one-shot. Now what you want to do is you're going to want to jump over here, kind of catty corner to where you were. You're going to get on this platform. There's a giant rat here. Roll past it, drop to the floor. And now this is what you want. This is the talisman. So if you die here, your job is done. You don't have to die here. I took the hit and managed to get up the ladder. If you die down there, that's fine. You're going to respawn right at the site of grace. I said this is going to be a suicide run, so make sure you do this with very few runes. You don't want any runes, really as few runes as possible to be lost if you do this. I managed to get out in one piece. Sometimes I die doing this. And if you die, just make sure you got that Radagon Soreseal. That's what you want. That's the main thing. And so again, we can upgrade our flask because we got another golden seed. And the talisman that we got, we're going to equip here, is the Radagon Soreseal. You'll see that it'll give us +5 in vigor, endurance, strength, and dexterity. Big time win. Okay, so now what we're going to do is if you jump over this little fence here, you see that giant skull right in front of us. Looks like a big rock, but it's kind of a skull. Run past all of these dragons. And we're going to hop down this spirit spring jump right here. And then we're going to jump right back up it. They get on top. Pick up these items. There's some smithing stones that really we're not going to use. And the only thing we wanted up here was the stone sword key. Now we're going to hop back down the spirit spring jump. And there's a site of grace that we're going to want to get down here. So if you run all the way kind of southeast-ish from here, you're going to see this graveyard. Head directly north from the graveyard. Don't get that item because that guy will try to hit you. This is a fake wall. Go in this cave. And we're not going to do this cave yet, but we're just going to unlock the site of grace because we're going to warp here later. So unlock the site of grace. Rest to get your stuff back. And then we're going to go out of the cave that we just went in. There's going to be another sacred tier that we're going to get to beef up our flask. Right now we're at flask +2. This one's going to get us to flask +3. Again, the golden seeds increase the number of usages that you have, so we're up to 7 now with our red and to 1 with our blue. You can allocate that any way you want between red and blue. You could give yourself 7 blue and 0 reds if you wanted to. But where we're headed now is this church right here, kind of southwest from where we just were. And again, the sacred tears increase the potency of your flask, so your flask will heal more than it used to when you level it up. There's an NPC right now, right there. We're not going to interact with her. We're not going to interact with her at all on this playthrough. And we're going to use this. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we need to level up, or we're going to use all of the runes we just got. Actually, we're going to warp to Roundtable Hold to do this. And again, if you go on this map screen, if you press the triangle button on your PlayStation controller or whatever equivalent you have, and then press square, you see that it takes you straight to the Table of Lost Grace, which is Roundtable Hold. Instead of having to, when we get there, instead of having to, you know, pull up your map and manually navigate down here, you can get there this way. Or you can, if you have a PlayStation controller, you can press the map button, triangle, then square, or whatever the equivalent buttons are on your controller. So now that we're at the Roundtable Hold, we're going to go to the blacksmith, sell him our runes.
Well, I took you no matter to lay out your arms then.
That gives us 13,000. What we need to do is we need to level up our faith stat to 12, and this is going to allow us to use a incantation. That incantation we picked up called Flame Cleanse Me. And we're right close to getting another level. If you need those extra runes to get those extra levels, you can go back to Limgrave and just kill a few enemies, and you'll get that extra level. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna memorize spell. Click on this first slot. We're gonna put Flame Cleanse Me in, and then we are also going to equip our seal that we bought earlier in the game. And I believe, am I still? Let me sure, maybe sure. Still medium load. Okay. So, what we're going to use the rest of those runes for is to level up our weapon as high as we can get it right now.
Well, I took you no matter to lay out your own.
Strength and armament, we got it to +3, +4, and we don't have quite enough to get us to +5 yet, but that's just fine. We'll do that as soon as we can. +4 is more than enough for right now. So what we're going to do now is we are going to warp back here at Fort Faroth, which is where we got the Radagon Soreseal, which again is the first of 8 legendary talismans. And if you don't have it equipped yet, please go ahead and equip it. It will give you +5 in vigor, endurance, strength, and dexterity at the cost of taking a little bit of extra damage. But again, as I said, the trade-off is well worth it. Where we're headed next is to get the map here for the Dragon Barrows, which is right here. So we're going to go ahead and put that marker on here. This giant dragon is not going to wake up and attack you. Ignore it for now. We're going to come back to it later. But for now, we have a little bit of a horseback ride ahead of us. We're actually going to be coming back later in this episode and killing that giant dragon. And the reason for that is because it gives us an enormous amount of runes that we're going to be using for leveling up. And it also will unlock a spell that we're going to need to acquire. It's a legendary spell that we're going to need for a platinum trophy for one of the achievements. But run past everything. Don't stop to smell the roses. Actually, I'm going to go right next to this because there are some runes in here. So I got that gold rune 5. Here's our map. Just run right past those dragons. They're not going to bother you if you run past them. Whoops, I missed the item though. Missed the map fragment. There we go. Got the map fragment. And over here, you go a little bit further west, there should be a grace on the other side of this tree branch. And what we're going to do now is if you travel further to the southwest, you see here on the map, there is a little bit of like a canyon here, but right here, there's actually a spot that's narrow enough to jump over. So you see over here, it'd be too wide over there, too wide over here. Right here is a narrow spot you can jump over. And there's going to be another graveyard where we can pick up more runes, which we're going to use to level up our weapon to +5. That should be more than enough. And we're going to travel to the south. Keep traveling to the south. You pass this tree. There'll be a little bit of a cliff that we jump off of, but not one that's too far down to kill us right here. And let's see. So down there is where we're headed. Keep heading south from here. Another little drop off right here. Now, once you're here, turn to the northeast. This little tree branch that extends from the ground, you're going to want to run right across it. Jump over here. And this cave is probably going to be the hardest thing we've done in the game so far. There's going to be a boss at the end, and the cave itself is challenging to get through. So what I'll say is we're going to unlock this grace. We're going to go back to Roundtable Hold. And whoops, we can't, since we're inside the cave, we can't fast travel. So we're going to go outside the cave and then go back to Roundtable Hold once it lets us. Here we go. Back to Roundtable Hold. We're going to sell all the runes we just picked up, which will allow us to upgrade our weapon to +5 and maybe get one extra level. Would be nice. We'll see.
Well, I took you no matter to lay out your own.
All right. Strength and armament to +5, which is as high as we can do right now. So our weapon is going to be much stronger than what you would normally have at this point in the game. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go back to the abandoned cave, which is the place we just unlocked. And so the reason I'm doing this now is because when you kill the boss, The boss gives you a talisman called the Gold Scarab, and what that talisman does is it increases the amount of runes you get by, I think, 20% each time you kill an enemy, so more runes. The problem is this cave is infested with scarlet rot. If you jump down there, that is a scarlet rot swamp. So that's why we have the Flame Cleanse Me spell. You see that we just equipped it, and we put our seal here on our left hand. So to use Flame Cleanse Me, let's say if you get scarlet rotted in here, you can use Flame Cleanse Me by, if you equip your seal and you're one-handing your main weapon here, if you press L1, then you'll use the Flame Cleanse Me spell, and I'm gonna get my, using Flame Cleanse Me consumes FP, so I'm gonna get it back by resting. But the way you can technically get through here without getting scarlet rotted, and I'm gonna show you how. So the first thing you wanna do is you're gonna wanna sprint and jump off this ledge right here while sprinting the whole time. And you'll see that there are these little geysers. Those will do damage to you, but a little trick is if you rest, it resets the geysers. So right after you rest, right after you get up, you're gonna wanna sprint and jump off here, and then just run as fast as you can until you get to this spot. And if you get scarlet rotted, that's okay. You can use Flame Cleanse Me. You can use Flame Cleanse Me to heal the scarlet rot, like I just did. So you'll see I'm taking quite a bit of health damage there from that scarlet rot. I'm gonna heal up. This platform is safe. You're not in the scarlet rot when you're sitting on this platform. So when you're at this platform right in front of this, it's not going to attack you. You're gonna want to jump over here and get out of the scarlet rot swamp. I'm gonna put my lantern on because it is dark in here. So use that lantern because it is hard to see. And hopefully I don't get scarlet rotted again, but if I do, we have the spell to get rid of it. So the boss at the end of this place is pretty tough, I'm not gonna lie, but it is doable to beat him at this point in the game. And you see we have these exploding geysers. And it's actually hurting that enemy who's gonna throw some poison at us. It actually killed him there. So what we wanna do is wait for the geysers to explode. We're gonna be jumping to the right here. And we wanna be taking the rightmost path. So wait for the geysers to explode, jump to the right. And I still am taking some damage here, but that's just fine. If you die in this cave, it's not the end of the world. You can just try again. And if this is too hard for you at this point in the game, this is optional. We're getting a talisman that is not required for Platinum. All it's going to do, as I said before, is it's going to help us with acquiring more runes every time you kill an enemy. So, you know, if it's too hard for you now, don't sweat it. You can always come back here later when you're stronger. I would recommend kind of after the first dungeon, after the first big dungeon that we do, you can come back here and you will almost certainly be strong enough to do this at that point in time. So through that room, that big room, it had a giant flower. I just kind of hugged the wall to the right and then got to this pathway. And that's how we got here. So behind this fog is the boss. So this boss is actually, there's going to spawn two enemies here. So you want to try to kill the first one as quickly as possible so you're not dealing with both of them at the same time. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to use our Flask of Wondrous Physick to buff before we go in. The first thing that you're going to want to do once you get in is, well, drink your buff before you go in. Drink your Physick Flask before you go in. The first thing you're going to do is I have my summons equipped to my triangle right-hand button. See my wolves there? The first thing once you walk through this fog is summon immediately. The second thing you're going to do is to drink your blue flask to replenish your FP because summoning your wolves is going to consume most of your FP. And again, our special attack that we use with this weapon with L2 is going to also consume FP. And we want to make sure we have enough FP left to use our special attack. So buff. Go through the fog, summon your wolves, drink the blue flask, and the wolves are going to deflect a lot of the aggro. You see that he was about to attack me just there, and then the wolves hit him, and then he almost immediately went to the wolves. So now the second one spawned. And the thing is that since there's three wolves, the wolves will kind of divert the aggro of both of them. And you'll notice that this place is surrounded by a scarlet rot swamp, so I am taking a little bit of scarlet rot buildup, but just make sure that you heal when needed. Let's see, this guy shoots projectiles at you, so you want to kill one of them as quickly as you can. You see I am using that special quite extensively, and here we go. I'm using that jump attack quite extensively as I said I would. We got the first one down. So now that the first one is down, the second one's going to be much easier. He's killed two of my three wolves. I still got that one wolf there, still diverting the aggro. I'm using that special quite a bit because it helps immensely. And the wolf might get the kill here. I'm gonna let my wolf get the kill for being a good boy. Oh geez, he actually just grabbed me. That's bad. And that's a Scarlet. Oh, I shouldn't have been cute there. I was gonna let my wolf get the kill, and then I ended up dying anyway. That kind of sucks. But anyway, the wolf just killed him. He did the job. He did the job in the end there, and I got the Gold Scarab. So the wolf actually came through for me. That was beautiful. That was about as ugly as it could look, and still taking a death. So the way that death works is when you die, you lose all of your runes. If I went back to that boss room, I could get my runes back. I'm not going to spend my time doing that because those amount of runes comparable to what we're about to get is relatively negligible, and that's fine with me. If the wolves hadn't have killed him at the last minute there, I would have. I got the Gold Scarab. If the wolves hadn't have killed them there and I didn't get the Gold Scarab before I completely died, then I would have to go back and fight that fight again and go back through this dungeon. As I said, I was kind of talking and not really paying that as close of attention as I should when I was doing that fight, and I got a little bit cute there at the end, wanting the wolves to get the kill shot. But anyway, it is what it is. Still got my Gold Scarab here, and so we're good to go. I'm going to put this on. As you see there, the item effect, it increases the runes obtained from defeated enemies. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Fort Feroth. And again, if this takes you a couple tries to get, not a big deal. There's bosses that I'm definitely going to die to. Well, I did die to that one, but I still ended up counting as getting the kill. There are bosses that I'm going to die to, and stuff's going to take multiple tries. It just is what it is. This game is hard to get through flawlessly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to kill this giant dragon here. And if you remember at the very beginning of the game, we picked up the flail. We're actually going to be using the flail on this boss. Or not boss, but this dragon. And the reason for that is because you see this dragon has an insane amount of HP. Now what the flail does is the flail has bleed damage on it. And so you'll see when the bleed triggers, it's going to take out a significant chunk of the dragon's HP. You see there, it did like 13,000 damage because the bleed just triggered. So the reason why I'm using the flail is because, again, the flail has the blood damage associated with it. And the blood damage is ultimately what's going to be doing the vast majority of damage to this dragon over the long haul. This is going to take about 5 minutes of just wailing on this thing to get. And one thing I will point out while I'm doing this is the Bloodhound's Fang, the main weapon that we're using, the big sword. It also does blood damage. And the reason why I'm choosing to use the flail here instead of the Bloodhound's Fang, despite the fact that the Bloodhound's Fang also does bleed damage, is the fact that the flail is lighter and you can attack quicker in succession with the flail. So this will actually go by quicker using the flail, since the attack animation is quicker. So this is the only point really where I'm going to be using the flail in this playthrough. So again, I have the Gold Scarab equipped, which will give us more runes when we kill this thing. And then if you remember in the previous episode, we picked up an item called a Gold Pickled Foulfoot. Well, when this thing gets on low HP, I'm actually going to throw on the Gold Pickled Foulfoot as well. And what that'll do is it will actually stack with the Gold Scarab. And once we kill this, it will give us an enormous amount of runes, plus the extra from the Gold Scarab, plus the extra from the Gold Pickled Foulfoot. So definitely worth it to have both. If you only have the Gold Pickled Foulfoot and not the Scarab, still use the Gold Pickled Foulfoot. You'll still get the bonus from that. And again, if you weren't able to get the Gold Scarab, don't sweat it. It's not a big deal. It's not a huge deal at all. We will get much stronger in just a minute, and you'll probably be able to go back and get it then. And it's not going to be that big of a deal. Also, probably after episode 4 or 5-ish, I'm going to showcase a very good farming spot in the game that you have access to relatively early on in the game. And especially if you weren't able to get the Gold Scarab when I got it, you can farm this place to your heart's content, get to level 200 probably in less than an hour, and you will be golden for the rest of the game. So no worries there. But I do get the Gold Scarab here just because it does help me in my playthrough. I will not be farming for runes in this playthrough. But again, I will show you the way to farm for runes if you want to, and that will help you get past anything this game will throw at you with relative ease. So again, no worries if you couldn't pick up that Gold Scarab. That fight is hard. It is probably one of the hardest things that we do, at least in the order that I'm doing things in. So don't sweat it. So we got another Blaidd here. 2 more Blaidd should kill it. So the Gold Pickled Foulfoot lasts for a specified duration. I believe it's 3 minutes. So once I get a few more hits in here, I'm going to go ahead and pop it. And again, it does stack with the Gold Scarab, so both of them will help you get more runes. And as long as you're attacking this thing kind of right here, there are other dragons around here, but none of them should aggro to you. None of them should be any bit of problem. I'm going to go ahead and pop the Gold Pickled Foulfoot here. You see that both icons there are beneath my stamina meter, which means they're both active. The buff from the Gold Scarab plus the buff from the Gold Pickled Foulfoot are active right now. And we're going to get probably over 100,000 runes for killing this thing, which is insane. There's the Blaidd, so we got 1 more Blaidd to go, and then we're done. Any second here. There we go. Oh, it didn't even take a Blaidd. All right, watch how many runes we get for killing this thing. It's insane. Because when you kill this one, the dragons around it die, and you get runes for all of it. So we get 5 dragon hearts and 115,891 runes. Insane. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to warp to a site of grace that we unlocked in the previous episode, right in the middle of the swamp. And we are going to have some fun leveling up here, guys. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to leave the Gold Scarab equipped for pretty much the entire playthrough. Once we get our next Talisman pouch, we're going to put the Soreseal back on to get those extra levels for Vigor, Endurance, Strength, and Dexterity. But for now, I'm going to take my Endurance up to 25, so that'll help me carry whatever else I need to carry for the rest of the game. I'm going to get my Strength to 18 so we can one-hand the Bloodhound's Fang. I'm going to put the rest of it into Vigor to get our HP up, and that gets us to level 41, which is insane. We haven't even fought the first story boss yet, so level 41 is quite high. If you didn't have the Gold Scarab, you'd probably be at about 38 or 39-ish, I'd guess. Maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher, but if you follow the Endurance to 25, Strength to 18, and Vigor to however high you can get it, you will be more than equipped to take what's ahead of us in stride, especially with a +5 weapon, which is much higher than you should have at the beginning of the game. So we are in good shape here. 950 runes left over. So I'm going to go ahead and put my Bloodhound's Fang back on. We can two-hand it, where we can carry it with the bow with ease and still have our medium roll because we upgraded our endurance quite substantially. So where we're headed next is this map fragment. Before the map fragment, there's a slight detour we're going to take kind of right around here where there's another site of grace and some items we're going to pick up. So kind of head southwest-ish for the time being. Just ignore the enemies around here. Make sure on horseback because you'll get scarlet rotted if you're on foot by running through this swamp. Okay, so right here are the items that we want. One of them's a rune arc. That'll be important later. And that is the one that we want. Ignore these enemies around here. There's a site of grace as well. Right here. So just unlock the site of grace for warping. You see, there's our map. We're actually going to overshoot the map real quick. It's just down here is another golden seed. Run away from the birds. Get your golden seed. Now we're going to run back to the map. So you notice when we killed Greyoll, the giant dragon, we also got 5 dragon hearts. Oh, geez, that bird is onto us. Well, let me summon Torrent. There we go. Let's get away from here. So where we're headed now is southwest. You see that tall building. This is another church that we're going to, but this is a different church. This one doesn't have a sacred tier. It has something else that we need. Let's go ahead and unlock Side of Grace. I'm going to rest at it to reset the aggro. I don't know if that bird's still following me. I doubt it, but it could be. All right, so run up to this kind of red flame thing here, and we can examine the altar, do the ritual of Dragon Communion, and here we can purchase Greyoll's Roar. But the currency is not runes. The currency is Dragon Hearts, with which we got 5 when we killed Greyoll. You need to get Greyoll's Roar. This is a legendary spell that's required for the achievement. This is number 1 of 7 for the legendary spell, so you have to pick this up if you want that achievement. And so we're not going to be using it, but we need it for the achievement. So anyway, so here's where we're going to go ahead and cut it. We got a lot of accomplishments in this episode. We got our weapon that we're going to be using for the vast majority of this playthrough. Very handy. Very early on in the game, you can get this thing. It is extraordinarily powerful, especially once you level it up all the way. And we're just going to roll through stuff that we start in the next episode. So we got up to level, what is it now? 41. And in the next episode, we are going to be fighting a bunch of bosses, going through dungeons, and really getting into the meat of the game and having a lot of fun doing so. And pretty much we're going to be steamrolling through everything for starters, because we are very, very strong at this point in the game. So anyway, I hope you guys have had fun, and hope you guys have found this guide useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Take care, everybody.